Good morning, Ruth.
Morning, Paul. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, lovely to speak to you. So we've not met before, so it's becoming quite useful. Quite often now we catch up with people we've not met before on these Zoom calls and things. So.
I know it's weird. You feel like you know people so much better because you can see into their homes, don't you?
Yeah,
I know you like plants. This is.
yeah, yeah. My background's not that exciting. You've got a nice painting on your wall picture there, so something quite nice. So.
I'm very proud of that. That's my daughter's A-level artwork. That is.
Oh,
So
there you go.
I always try and get it in my Zoom calls because I think it's funny.
Excellent. Well, thank you for joining me today. For those that don't know you and who you work for and what you do, if you'd like to introduce yourself and tell us a little about who you work for and what you do.
Yes, so my name's Ruth Lambert and my title is Development Manager, which doesn't mean much really, but I work for the Federation of Small Businesses, which is the country's biggest trade association for businesses. We've got about 165 members across the country, 165,000 members
Yes.
across the country.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, 165. And in Somerset, so I look after Somerset and Wiltshire for them, and in Somerset we've got about 4,500 members, so quite well represented. Anyone that's got sort of 250 staff or less is classed as a small business can join, although the majority of our members are probably towards the smaller end of the scale, maybe sort of micro businesses to sort of 10, 50 staff. Yeah, my role is a really great one, actually. It's really flexible. So I'm responsible for looking after our members. So if they have any issues, I'm the person that they contact. I work really closely with local councils, local MPs, local enterprise partnership, the Police and Crime Commissioner, anyone who sort of takes decisions that would affect small businesses, to try and make sure that they remember that small businesses are 98% of the local business population and don't just listen to the big corporates that are more likely to be able to get their point across. So that's how I spend some of my time. I also try and raise the profile in the local press of what's going on for small businesses, and mainly just try and make life a bit better for the small businesses in Somerset and Wiltshire, in my own little way. We're an organisation that is quite lean. So our head office is in Blackpool, and I'm based from home. There's an administrator that supports me called Joya, and then that's it. We run with volunteers. So because we started out as a lobbying organisation 46 years ago now, we're really keen that members have a voice and have the chance to get involved. So rather than having lots of staff, we get the members involved if there's something they're really passionate about, so they can come in and get involved with sort of lobbying the council or the MP, or working on a particular project in the local area, if they can spare the time out of their businesses.
Excellent. Well, it sounds like a great role to have. And so it must be nice being all the different types of business owners and fixing sort of problems they're going through. And I imagine it's been a really busy time for you all there.
It has, yeah. I mean, it has been really busy, but I'm really grateful. I mean, I am a paid member of staff. So I did used to have my own small business. In fact, I've had a couple of small businesses myself. So I do know what it's like, but I am obviously very fortunate. I appreciate that I'm not going through that nightmare at the moment. But yes, I've been taking lots and lots of calls and emails from our members, and businesses who aren't our members, to be honest, as well, who just needed somewhere to turn to try and help them navigate the new system of support that's come out, help them try and work out what might be the best thing to do with their business. So in a way, it's quite nice actually to feel that you're maybe playing a bit of a useful role. I think a lot of businesses have found it really hard to get in touch with people like their banks, because they've been so inundated. And government services, you've been queuing for a long time. So if I'm able to get back to somebody relatively quickly and at least give them a bit of advice and someone to talk to, I think that's quite a useful thing to do, or I like to think so.
No, absolutely. And it's been strange how it's unfolded, because obviously it's when it sort of became the reality that we were going into lockdown, and say unprecedented has been the word of the year already.
Yeah.
but in terms of it happening, almost like everybody's, the ripple effect, taking time to sink in and think, well, what happens next? And it's been, you know, checking on a daily basis, what's going to happen, what support's available, how do I access it? And it, as much as well as worrying about your business and your employees, or, you know, what's going to happen with the business and where you've got it to, it has been untangling a lot of it, hasn't it? And signposting people, like you say, to the right places, that they can get the support they can get, really.
Yeah, I mean, the challenge has been that the government have announced these headline proposals and not actually thought about the detail underneath, because they've been keen to get the message out that they want to support businesses, which is great. Don't get me wrong, that's really good. But then everybody has then had to spend the next couple of weeks scrambling to put the detail into place. And the Federation of Small Businesses has been quite involved in working with government on that. So we've got an office in Westminster, and our policy team have been meeting regularly and sort of trying to say, hang on a minute, have you thought about this type of business or that type of business? And that's where our members have come in really useful, because, you know, it's all very well to go, we think you should think about this. But if you can say, we think you should think about this because we've had 50 members contact us who've got this problem, and actually it's going to, what you're trying to achieve isn't going to work for them, then they'll listen, and they can, you know, we have got them to change things and put different nuances on what they do. But it's been really hard, yeah, for people like for organisations like the councils, who don't typically, you know, instigate things quickly, to have it announced and then have to put a whole system in place, or HMRC to have to again put a new IT system in place that probably would normally have taken them about 4 or 5 years. They've had to do it in a few months, well, a few weeks, haven't they, really? So it's been quite a challenge for everybody. And then, you know, you just think you know what the system is, and it might be slightly tweaked. So it is difficult, if you're a person trying to run your own business, to keep focused on that. And that's where organizations like ours, I think, are really helpful, because we have a website where we've been putting all the up-to-date information. Every time we learn something new, we update it. So, you know, if you come to the FSB website, you're getting something that is current, because there's been a bit of a problem with fake news out there, I think. And you know, we've been able to provide, through the benefits that we offer our members, things like a 24-hour legal helpline, free HR advice, some sort of downloadable guides and things. So, you know, lots of really practical help. So I've spoken to members who maybe have joined years ago for one reason, not really used their membership that much, but now are thinking, well, this is why I was a member, because I've got, you know, I've got an infrastructure for my business that, being a small business, I don't, you know, normally have in place. So that's been really good. And as an organisation, it's been good for us, actually, because we've been introducing new ways of working and new services and benefits for our members that maybe would have taken us a lot longer to get in place. But actually, you know, we've forged new partnerships, and you know, have a lot of new offers for people. Like, there's one that I noticed the other day. You know, we've got a partnership with Rhino, and they do like online apps. So you can do, if you've never done like click or collect for your business, you can use their service, and your customers can book time slots and things. Now, that's something that most small businesses probably wouldn't have got round to doing. And now it's really important, you know, if you're, for a lot of businesses, if they want to reopen. So it's nice that we can offer that sort of that relationship, rather than them having to trawl through all the different providers and not really know what they're looking for. They can have a bit of peace of mind that maybe we've done our due diligence on them and made sure that they're a good organisation. So, but that's something that we didn't offer before, and we've started to offer. So it's been really interesting to see how the Federation has developed as well through this.
Yeah, so having all those different things to support you if you are self-employed or a small company. I've used the legal support before, had some issues with somebody not paying me for ages, you know, and waiting on, and it was brilliant. FSB helped me to write something, get it sorted, and it was resolved. But what good, and this was just when I started the business in 2011. So it was kind of a big learning curve, with no experience running a business before. But having an organisation such as FSB, where you don't feel like you're on your own, and like you mentioned, the extra benefits of, well, you get discounts off this, or you can use this app that you just mentioned, and this, and that's also extends beyond throughout this whole thing. We've had our local sort of town and community has been great and doing great things, but the business community, I think everyone has been very helpful to signpost people to right places, and you know, it's just nice having that support. You don't feel like you're on your own, and
No.
sharing the right information as well.
No, it's nice, and I think you can ask without feeling silly as well. You know, have businesses contact me and say, I think I should probably know this, but I don't because I've never had to do it before. So can you just tell me in, you know, easy terms how I approach this? And that's absolutely fine, you know. And it's been interesting working with the councils as well, because obviously a lot of the people in councils have never run their own business, and they're now having to set up these schemes to support their local businesses. And so they've sort of been saying, well, what does that mean if you're a business? How would you do that? And so to be able to give them advice as well has been quite, I think they've appreciated too, so that they make sure, because they do want to get it right. I mean, I know we bash councils quite a lot, but at the end of the day, they're trying to do their best. They just don't always understand. And so if they're working with organisations like the FSB, then they can sort of say, well, look, we're thinking of doing this. Would that work? You know, which is good.
Yeah, so if you're working in partnership with each other to help the most people as possible, because I think you touched on a good point there about, you know, central government come up with something, but don't think about it on a practical, the practicalities of, well, someone goes, oh, I'm a hairdresser. What does that mean for my business? I don't, for ourselves, we don't pay business rates, but we rent office space. Our business has been, you know, like every business has been impacted by what's gone on. And it's kind of the untangling of it with organisations such as yourselves that do that, working with the, you know, with councils and central government, which is.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that with the business rates, because obviously there were the grants that came out originally, and presumably if you had paid business rates, you probably would have qualified, because you might have been, I mean, I don't know, maybe you've got a huge office, but if you were of a size where you would have qualified for the small business rate relief, then you would have had £10,000. But because your business rates are included in your rent, you suddenly don't get £10,000, whereas your neighbour down the road would, which is a symptom of government going, right, we just need an easy way to judge things.
Yeah.
Let's do it on that. But then, or, you know, we spent time with them saying, look, hang on, that is great. We're really grateful. But what about these people? So we've spent weeks feeding up. Look, we're hearing from members that if they're in a shared office space, if they're in an incubator, if they, you know, it's just not fair. And I've had a particular problem actually with the VOA, the Valuations Office Agency that does the ratings of business rates. Now they're always really slow, but in this crisis, they basically just closed their phone lines down. Everyone went to work from home, and their wheels have ground even more slowly. So people who knew that they would qualify but couldn't get their rating updated are also missing out on the grants. So there's been frustrations all round. But because we've been feeding all that back to government, that's why they've launched the top-up grants that are coming out at the beginning of June, which are specifically targeted really at people in those share spaces and those that would qualify but have just sort of missed it for some reason. And although there's not a lot of money coming out, there's, you know, every bit makes a difference, doesn't it really? And certainly we've been encouraging councils to maybe look at giving smaller amounts of money. So if you can give more people £3,000 each rather than a couple of people £25,000, then that's going to help, you know, help a bit more. So certainly that's been my philosophy, just try and help as many people as you can.
Yeah, I was because I said, I think we were talking beforehand that I said have an office, a small office in town, and my name was on there, exempt to pay any business rates of zero, you know. So when it was announced, I dived into the garage at home. It must be somewhere, the paperwork. And funny enough, I found all these folders. Really random, opened it up, and I found the sheet of paper I needed straight away, straight onto the council. But the account number I gave them had been closed or removed. And yeah, it was very frustrating when when we now say rent some space. I said, so if I'd have stayed at my office 2 years ago where I paid no business rates, I'd have got a grant of 10 grand. But now I live in the office I've got now, and I pay no business rents, I get nothing. Yeah, pretty much. And they were frustrated as well, as yourselves were, you know, feeding that back. So I had a beer when they announced the June. So I'm going to make a lot of noise if we don't get any support.
No, definitely. It is hard. And as you highlight, you know, they can only go with what the guidance is that
Yeah,
they get from government. So the thing to try and do is to just keep feeding back as many case studies as we can, to show where the gaps are, and then hopefully Rishi Sunak will think, oh, okay, this is quite a big gap. Let's try and fill that. But looking around, I've got friends in America and Germany, and it seems to me that although there are people who are missing out, the government has been quite generous, really. I
yeah.
think we've been really lucky with the amount of support. My brother lives in Canada, and I was talking to him about the furloughing scheme. And in Canada, initially, the furloughing scheme, the government were paying 10%.
All right. Okay.
Whereas we've got 80% right from the beginning. So he couldn't believe that. He thought that was really good. So, it's easy to take these things for granted. I think we're quite fortunate that they've been so supportive. But I do really feel for those that have missed out. I mean, people like, the directors who can't apply for the self-employed scheme because they've paid themselves in dividends.
Yeah,
I understand why the government are reluctant to
yeah,
pay out, but that doesn't make that situation any better. And they need help just as much as anybody else, really. And startup businesses, you'll know yourself, and I know from when I started my business, that's a really tricky time because you tend to put your savings into it, and you're really like going for it. So you haven't got much income, and then all of a sudden, if you're in that situation, you haven't done a tax return yet. You can't apply for this. You're probably not making any profit. You're
no,
not going to get anything from the self-employed scheme. That's really tough.
it is. And I've a couple of people I've spoken to on this series have been in that situation. Both of them I've not met before, and they're literally like changed jobs, and got everything everything ready. Mark on the channel, Mark Howard, he got everything ready to go. Brandon sorted website, and then and also Jennifer who runs a wedding business, and of course, in seeing the impact of all the weddings cancelled and all the couples that chose 2020 as their year
Oh,
at the start of
yeah.
a decade,
Really tough.
all that business is gone, and I think it's some of us haven't been affected very much. If you work from home before, if you've got clients that are around the world, or you do something on a freelance basis, you can adapt more. But obviously, if you've got something in hospitality or those industries are going to take a
Yeah.
while to recover. And I just hope there's a bit of a bottleneck in terms of everybody wanting to keep their money locally when this all happens, that we'll want to be celebrating birthdays that we missed in lockdown or this, that, or the other, and look at the local economy and supporting that a lot more, and the small businesses.
No, I think you're so right, actually. And it was what we did, it was Somerset Day the other day. We did a bit of an initiative for our members where we said, look, we know it's tough. You need to keep your brand out there. Send us your details through and we'll promote you on social media. And it was really nice to spend a day doing some really positive stuff, and trying to just like raise awareness of our local businesses. And there's so many really great businesses in Somerset that we really need to just take a step back and think, hang on, who do I normally buy from? Could I buy it locally?
Yeah,
Because we all have a responsibility really to support our local economy. And if everybody did that, just think what a difference it would make, really.
yeah. We've been sort of supporting Somerset Day for a number of years now in our magazine and also online, and the diversity of different businesses. So next year we're going to go and do what we did a couple of years ago, sort of go around and meet as many businesses as we can in a day.
Nice.
And showcase that. And I think I hope to see that event grow, because we need to shout more about, Somerset as a county and how great it is. And I actually went to university in Wiltshire, so on the patch there you cover so know that well. But yeah,
Yeah, no, it's lovely, but both very rural areas. And it's like you mentioned, tourism, hospitality are going to be the last things that reopen, so they're going to need a lot of support. So I think we should all be thinking about how can we, when we can holiday again, how can we sort of do staycations, holiday more locally, support our local tourist industry, because they're really, really struggling at the moment. And there hasn't been an awful lot of support for them so far, really.
yeah. Well, let's hope it continues to to be more positive as things unfold and we slowly go back to say the normal way of working, but so we've got a chance to keep the things that worked well before and then fix the other bits that
Yes.
didn't. So there's opportunities there. And it's been good to see businesses that have pivoted their business or sees those opportunities that have come up, and having the kind of support of organisations such as the FSB is great. And you know, has been sort of positives, you know, with the business community wanting to help each other. It's sort of taking the positives out of this, really. So.
I think you're right. And I think the worst thing you can do as a business owner is think, right, I'm just going to go and do some gardening till it's all over. You know, you really just need to take it as an opportunity to, as you say, like look at how your business operates. Can you pivot in a new direction? Can you like digitalize anything that you're doing? Can you put it online instead? And if you can't do any of that, then at least you could do a bit of housekeeping. So things like, you know, have you been thinking you need a staff manual or a health and safety risk assessment for something that is really boring and you've never got around to doing it? Well, now you've got the time, haven't you? So that when we do go back out there again, you could have everything really sorted. You can, you know, get your tax returns in, get everything sorted so that when you get going, you're really like there and organised. All that paperwork shredded that you don't need anymore, and you're just sort of refreshing your mindset and having a sort of new plan. I think that's you know, it's important to look at it as an opportunity for what you can do, even though I do appreciate it's really tough.
Yeah.
You know, and it's hard, you know, if you've seen your business. Well, I mean, we did a survey recently, and I think 46% of businesses that we surveyed said they closed already. And something like 35% of them said they weren't sure they were going to reopen. So that's like a huge percentage. And that we mentioned, I think before we started this interview, that it's Mental Health Awareness Week. Well, that's going to have a really negative impact on your mental health. But if you are feeling like you're doing something productive for your business, even if it is just sorting out your office so that it's, you know, you've got everything nice and sorted for when you start again, then that does help to sort of keep you busy, focus on the future, and not maybe sort of spiral into feeling really bad about the situation, if you can help it.
Yeah, I think, and a lot of that with what you said is asking for help, because people like to help others if they can, you know, and put people in touch with things. And you're not alone. There is support out there, that so various organisations such as yourselves.
Yeah.
But there's stuff out there, and people can help you. And if you are struggling as a small business owner, and maybe you have a startup and you're thinking like, oh, you know, there's that help there. And I think,
and I would say get out there and get online, really, because I know, I mean, we'd never done virtual events before. Now we can't do our face-to-face ones. We're doing it all virtually. So we've got loads of free stuff going on. Lots of other organisations are doing the same. You know, there's loads of opportunities you don't need to sit at home on your own. You can Zoom with loads of other members of your business community. And I think that is really important too, because it does remind you that you aren't on your own, and that you are part of a broader sort of network. And you can because people have got a bit more time, they're willing to offer a bit more help and support, actually. So it is a good opportunity to pick someone's brains if there's something you're thinking about doing, and just keep your spirits up, really, if nothing else, by having a chat. I think it's good.
That's really good. Well, I'm gonna finish up now, Ruth, on the question I ask at the end. So I've been asking everybody, if you didn't do the role that you do now, working with sort of businesses across Somerset and Wiltshire, what would you choose to do otherwise? Or what did you want to do when you were at school? What did you want to do when you left school?
I think what I would do if I didn't do this now is I would run my own small business again, because I used to love being my own boss. And the thing that I love about this role is that you are pretty much your own boss. You're part of a bigger organization, but because we're all based from home and all our areas are different, there's a lot of flexibility in the support that you offer. So you know, we do what we think is best for the areas that we work in. And so it is quite entrepreneurial, and I like that. But I think if I couldn't do that, I'd probably be looking for my next business opportunity.
Excellent. I think, and you mentioned that there's a flexibility with, and it come up in one of the other videos about trust and flexibility with companies, and having, hopefully there will be changes with more homework in, people given less of the 9 to 5, more flexibility to do what they want, and more time for good mental health as well. The things we've covered today, different things, you know, it's lots of food for thought for lots of people, isn't it, really?
No, definitely. I've always felt I actually have always felt more productive when I've worked from home than when I've worked in an office, because you are then judged on what you achieve rather than how many hours you're sitting at your desk.
Yeah.
You know, you do have that flexibility to fit it in around your lifestyle, so you're generally more motivated. So yeah, I hope that a lot of businesses reassess their business model where maybe they thought that it wouldn't work from home, but they've realised that it might. So we might see those big office blocks as a thing of the past, mightn't we? And lots of people will be co-working to get a bit of sort of social interaction, but maybe working from home part of the week as well, which would be great.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for your time today. It's been lovely chatting to you, and I look forward to meeting you someday at some events, I'm sure, about. So, yeah, thank you for your time, and keep safe and well. And
thank you for having me.
And stay alert.
I will. You too.
Thanks, Ruth. Okay, bye. Bye.